Strategy-wise, we'll continue to focus in the province of Quebec because we are Montreal-based. We love Montreal as our home base. We'll continue to invest a lot in Montreal or the greater Montreal area.
Welcome everyone. Today I'm with Irene Peng of the Brivia Group. Hi Irene, how are you?
Hi Thierry, I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a day outside in front of a helicopter. Today we'll be talking about the Montreal market, what's going on. We're going to be talking about Brivia Group also. We'll give you a large introduction and be talking about multifamily housing also. So Irene, can you talk about a bit what your role is what your position is in the Brivia Group?
Absolutely. So I've been with the group for a little bit more than 6 years now, and my role has changed over the years, but currently I'm the Chief Operations Officer of the group. So I'm in charge of the group's strategies in terms of corporate operations, and I directly supervise the legal team, the construction team, and the property management team. So with the group's growth, it's very excited that we have projects now from coast to coast. We are still a Montreal-based real estate developer and investment group, but now we have projects outside of Montreal, in the rest of Quebec province, in Markham in Ontario as well, and in British Columbia.
Very interesting. So your main core right now, can you talk about a few of your projects that you have built and building in Montreal in the downtown core?
Absolutely. So today when we were coming down here to the airport, we have passed quite a few of our projects. When I just first joined Brivia, we were building phase 1 of YUL condominiums. We basically were revitalizing that part of downtown West Montreal, if you would. And then we built Quinson next to YUL. And now that we're building several other projects in downtown, as well as a lot of locations in Montreal. Today, I think we're gonna, actually go see some of the projects, including the recently launched condo projects called Mansfield, Mansfield, next to PVM building and Sun Life building. And we have a building at purpose-built rental that has recently topped, that is called Link, also in downtown. And we will also go see our flagship project, Phillips Square, Phillips Square, phase 1, which is right now coming out of the underground, and we're gonna pour the ground level very soon.
Interesting. So that flight should be taking place soon. Can you talk a bit about the Brivia Group? So how did it start? What's the philosophy, where we're going with this company?
Of course. So Brivia was founded in 2000. Our founder is Mr. Kang Lee, who's still our CEO and president of the group. Like I said, the group has experienced tremendous growth since its inception. So now that we are true pan-Canadian operations, we have a division in British Columbia overseeing the developments over there. And we are focusing really on the highly densified residential projects. We are now also doing quite a few large-scale, multi-phase, mixed-use projects as well. Strategy-wise, we'll continue to focus in the province of Quebec because we are Montreal-based. We love Montreal as our home base. We'll continue to invest a lot in Montreal or the greater Montreal area. But otherwise, we are super excited to have all the projects on the go now.
Very interesting. So right now, how do you see the Montreal market compared to the rest of Canada? What's your feeling on that market?
Right, so it's a very interesting question. I think Montreal about maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was probably less noticeable, shall we say, in the grand scheme of things in Canada, right? The money, the Canadian investment were mostly in Ontario, but I would say about 6, 7 years ago, we have seen Montreal market experiencing quite a tremendous growth, especially in recent 2-3 years, I would say. So you see a lot of interest that's coming in from the rest of Canada, and even across the border from the US. I'm sure PMML also have experienced the kind of change that you see in recent years. Yeah. We, again, like I said, we have a lot of confidence in the Montreal market. It's a market that still have a lot of growth potential, because if you look at the average income level, the kind of the middle class buyers and residents that we have, if we're comparing apple to apple, the same location in Toronto for the price square foot, I think we still have quite a lot of potential to growth. And also Montreal being the second largest metropolitan in Canada, we have always attracted a large number of new immigrants, international students. Those really attributes to the tremendous growth of Montreal as well. So as we are further strengthening our economic growth and positioning of Montreal, I'm very confident that the Montreal real estate market will continue to grow.
Interesting. So you've been building condominiums for a long time. Right now, or did you begin to branch off into rental properties basically? And
this
is recent,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? Because I think with the interest rate being so low, there are a lot of the non-traditional players now even getting into the market, right? You will see a lot of the headlines talking about how some ultra high net worth family getting into the rental market and with the ambition to increase their hold in the market. And for us, this is right, we started entering into this sort of developments actually well before the pandemic and well before the interest rate gets so low and therefore becomes more attractive. You know very well that in downtown Montreal, the majority of the rental are the so-called apartment blocks that were built in the 70s or even earlier. And in 2016, we bought land in the Golden Square Mile, and in 2017, we started construction. The project is called Stanbrook. It's our first purpose-built new rental project in downtown Montreal. And we were very encouraged by the success that we have with Stanbrook. In fact, we were so encouraged, we started building more and more of those projects ever since. And now we have rental not only in downtown Montreal, but we also have rental in Quebec City, Albineuf. That's a 3-phase, totaling more than 600 units in Quebec City. And in our upcoming project in Markham, we also have a portion of the units devoted as rental. Even in Vancouver, one of the recent acquisitions in downtown Vancouver, we will have a portion of the building that will be market rental as well.
Wow, okay. In Montreal right now, because you're Stanbrook, where it's located, do you have a younger folk clientele, more millennials basically? Mm-hmm. What are these people looking for in the rental rate these days?
Well, they're really looking for a lifestyle that's hassle-free. They're looking for the kind of model that we're offering, which is all-inclusive, including Wi-Fi. And the other thing that they really enjoy is also having all the technologies that comes with it. So the buildings that we're designing and we're building all equipped with all kinds of conveniences, not just the traditional amenities, but also touch-free, key-free access. So you can just control everything with your phone. You can just get into the building, get into your unit with your phone. You get the notification from your property manager by certain apps as well. And we also have the delivery systems in the lobby, which, as you know, is super important now especially for the younger crowds, because they shop online. They also do a lot of takeouts, so it's super important to equip the building with that. And we also really focus on the social function of the building. So we have amenities that really allows people to gather together. We have space for co-working or studying. So all of this really adds to the attractiveness of the building.
Excellent. How do you balance off the offer versus affordability for these customers?
Right. So there is always that intricate balancing between, like you said, our bottom line, our return, and also the affordability. So whilst we are going after certain number in the MOI and rent per square footage, we have to be really conscious about the per unit, how much is the one bedroom in total, right? So in order to achieve that, you have to really work on the layout of the units. And the key here is compact, but still functional. Just imagine, I think a few years ago, people were so amazed when there's an article come out in New York Times, I think, talking about some apartment buildings in New York that's only 200 square feet, but basically have all the things you need. I don't think we're there yet. We're not having any units that's 200 square foot, right? But you see the units do get smaller and smaller, but we have to equip them with sometimes prefabricated sort of furniture that come with the unit, so that it gives that flexibility in the space, like Morphe bed, for example.
Right.
The bed that it turns into a bed in the evening, but in the daytime, it's storage space. It could be a sofa. So that's the kind of things that we pay attention to and make sure that you live in a small square footage, but you don't feel necessarily crammed in your space. And on the other hand, the offering of the amenities is also very important, right? So if you have very functional common space, then people don't necessarily feel like they are just restricted in their individual units. And I think that's exactly the reason why some people would opt for this sort of lifestyle rather than living in a large house, right? Because you don't have to own that space. You can share that space and in a more affordable way.
What's the trending downtown construction typical square footage for a rental unit right now?
Well, just give you some indication, Stanbrook, when we started leasing it in 2018, we were targeting at $3.14. We ended up having that average of $3.25. So it was a very pleasant surprise. We were fortunate that the market was really going up and we were able to capture the higher end of the market. Right now for Link, the project that we're going to fly over, we are really targeting at the higher range of $4.50 and above. And we're trending between $4.50 and $5. And so coming back to your previous question, it's really important to design the layout so that the total unit price doesn't become too much out of reach.
All right, and how does it work as far as common areas? Because of course we're putting them in there, we're offering to the tenants.
Right.
Are they freely using those spaces right now with COVID?
Absolutely. Actually, COVID did change certain things that we were doing in the common space. Like for at one point, because of the regulations, we have to first, of course, cut off the access of the amenities, which was unfortunate. But even afterwards, there was a lot of thoughts that went in to say that how do we design the space with even more flexibility so that it could be open up, but it could be also kind of individualized for more of an intimate setting with just a couple of friends for you to still enjoy the common space without necessarily mingling with a larger crowd. But for sure, we are still in the middle of the pandemic, but we're all hoping that this is going to end very soon and life can come back to normal anytime soon. So I think the kind of amenities still remain very attractive to renters. Renters are more thinking of the kind of normalized lifestyle that we will have before COVID and we will have again after COVID.
Interesting. So we had a conversation earlier in the car and we were talking about the younger clientele. What is going on with the 60 years and above right now in downtown Montreal?
Right, so we do see there is a percentage of the clientele, especially the buyers of larger units, that were downsizing from otherwise nearby neighborhoods like Westmount. We have seen it happening in the condo market as well as the rental market. I think for rental, because of the layout that we typically design, like I said, is more compact. Typically, this type of clientele actually prefers to go into the condo market, even as a renter. because the condo design is typically a bit more spacious than the rental design. So you see that bit of a difference, but we do see this type of clientele. However, I would say perhaps not as significant as the market was predicting. I'll say 5 to 10 years ago, right? There was a lot of talk about how the boomers are all going to downsize. Not all, but a majority or a significant portion of them would downsize, will move into a smaller space and whatnot. I don't think we've quite seen that as much yet, but we also talked about earlier how some of the less traditionally downtown core areas are going through densification. So I think some of the things we will see more, however, is perhaps people will downsize, but not necessarily moving to downtown to downsize, because they're used to where they are all their lifetime. For example, if you're a person that's living in, say, Laval or Brossard, all your lifetime you have your houses there, you already know the area. When you downsize, you might prefer to stick around in the areas that you know, and therefore creating a market for further densification in those areas.
Interesting. You're in the Quebec market, you're in the Montreal market. For rental, how do you compare those?
Yeah, well, we see quite a significant difference in our projects in the portfolio. In the Quebec market, our projects tend to attract more of the couple, the workers, the family. And we also see how there's a preference in terms of public transit. I think in Montreal, the lifestyle people are more used to less car, less driving, taking the public transit. While in Quebec, people are still very much driving a lot for anything, right? So our projects in Quebec City, for example, they are not really a TOD project, a transit-oriented development. They are next to the highway, actually, but the clientele seems to really enjoying that sort of easy access to the highway because they're driving to work anyways, not they're relying on public transportation. Also, the other thing that's really different is the parking ratio. As you know, here in Montreal, quite a number of years ago, the city actually has already abolished, at least in Ville-Marie and quite a few other cities or boroughs on the island, already abolished the minimum parking ratio. I still remember when we were doing Stanbrook, based on our market study, we actually didn't need that many parking, but at the time in 2016, parking ratio was still around. Mm-hmm. We actually pay penalty to have less parking than the minimum ratio. So just to tell you, in Quebec City, most of the households still need at least 2 parking spots for 1 unit for the rental. So we're building a lot more parking in Quebec City. And they're still sticking with a certain ratio in order for us to get the permit. So that's a drastic difference in the lifestyle choice.
Interesting. As far as storage, amenities to store bikes, for extra storage, how does that pan out for you right now? Do you have that storage space in your buildings?
Yes, we absolutely do. The bike racks have become very important, actually, especially for the rental projects. Even in a lot of the condo projects, we are building more and more by racks, and we have to also build them in a nice way, because you're building luxury condo projects. People who have their bikes stored, the bikes are nice bikes, so you really have to take that into consideration. What we have seen, interestingly, as a comparison, in Vancouver, they have a minimum requirement of bike storage. So I don't know if we're coming to Montreal or this part of the country, but that's something that we have observed when we were planning for the projects in Vancouver, and which I thought was very interesting.
Interesting. Now, if we're going towards there, what do you think? What is your feeling on land in Montreal? Of course, prices can only go up. We have transportation problems in Montreal. Mm-hmm. What are you foreseeing as far as hikes in costs, only in the cost of land? Right.
You're a broker, you have a very good pulse of the market. I'm sure you have seen the same thing. COVID did not stop the increase of land price in Montreal. If anything, I think it only accelerates the increase in price for land. We see in recent years also, quite interestingly, some of the out of the province investors coming into Montreal and also bidding on the centrally located land. And usually they come in with a different valuation modeling and projection of the market. So oftentimes we see these people actually significantly outbidding the local competitors. So that's a very interesting market trend. I think maybe also just coming back to an earlier point I was making, that you see that Montreal is really becoming the focal point, at least one of the poster child of the real estate market in Canada. So you're attracting a lot of those investments from outside the province even. So the market for land acquisition is still, the competition is still very fierce. We are fortunate at Brivia that because of our track record of closing and because of our very solid internal team for due diligence, we have a really good relationship with the brokers such as yourself. So oftentimes when the deal is semi-private, meaning that only the select bidders will be invited, we are among the bidders invited. So this is something that we feel extremely privileged, and we work hard to maintain that relationship.
Excellent. We went through COVID, we went through hikes in construction costs, hikes in soft costs. What would you not reproduce in time? What did you learn through the COVID curve?
Oh, that's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
You know, Thierry, I have to say, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, especially say springtime 2020, there were so many projections of what a post-COVID world is going to look like. There were projections saying that there will be a lot of paradigm shifting sort of trends. You know, people were already talking about how, the downtown is going to be empty. You know, New York is dead. I don't know whether you remember, there was like a huge talk on the article, Manhattan's dead, New York is dead, no one's coming back. But I think now, 18 months into the pandemic now, right? 18 months into the pandemic, I think we can safely say that the paradigm shifting trends, I don't think it has quite happened as much as people have predicted, you know? I think the pandemic certainly makes people to focus more on the quality of air, you know, in the building. So better ventilation is always great, right? And I think if anything, perhaps it also makes people to focus more on the quality of the product that you're choosing. So if there's any silver lining at all, maybe it actually enables great developers like ours and great brokers like yours even excel better in the market. So I don't know if I can say that I have seen a lot of the paradigm shifting trends in especially residential development world, but for sure, I think the pandemic has made people focus more on your living environment, because you're just locked at home, especially during lockdown. So you know, like you looking at your living environment, you're just paying more attention to it, and that's why we see more and more Quebec Inc. money investing in condo, investing in the resort products. You know, we just seen that more of the local purchase power. I think that's the interesting thing that's coming out from the pandemic.
Interesting, and that represents most of your investors, basically, the locals?
Well, if we're talking about investors in our project as development, we always have that group of partners, investors that we work with since our incorporation, really. We have quite a number of investors that we have worked with a lot repetitively over the years. That's something that we're really proud of, because it shows our track record, right? It's going well, that's why they're coming back, right? If it doesn't go well, they're never going to come back.
Sure.
But if we're talking about purchasers in a condo product, I think for projects that are particularly attractive to end users, such as Phillips Square, such as Mansfield, yes, we have seen a larger percentage of the Quebec buyers, the end user buyers versus investors coming into the buyer group. So therefore, we actually seen interesting trends that in these projects, the bigger units tend to go first. Because in a normal development or sales evolution of a condo project, typically the first batch of condos tend to be bought by more investors, smaller units, investment sort of products. And then as the project started construction and as it started to come off the ground, you see more the end users, because the end users, they might feel a bit more at ease when they see the projects actually, taking shape. But again, like I said, with the Phillips Square, with Mansfield, we actually see end users starting to buy from day one, the 2 bedrooms, the 3 bedrooms. So that's something that's interesting for us as well.
When you're building, of course, you have a span of time to build a building from, ground up, etc. How do you modulate your plans when you go along? Do you feel that the market is changing at such a speed that sometimes you have trouble catching up with what's needed and what's not needed on the market? How do you work with that?
Right. Well, a few years ago when we were visiting Toronto market, we were so amazed by the way they're selling the condo, because they sell out overnight. One project can be just sold like in one event. It could probably 90% will be sold, but it could be a good thing. It could be also something that's hurting you, because we all know the construction cost has been on the rise in the last few years. So if you have sold all your products from day one, then construction costs increase and whatnot. You're not going to be able to catch that during the course of a construction. Yeah. So the importance here, I guess that's the secret ingredient in the soup, is that you have to really pace yourself well. You also don't want to hold back too much, because you still need to get your minimum pre-sale. You need to go and solidify your position for your financing, right? So you have to really hit that sweet spot of achieving certain level of pre-sale in a short period of time, but however, reserve certain units so that you can go out and do your price adjustment and get more money and looking out for your bottom line. So it's really a delicate balancing of the selling speed and also the price escalation. For construction costs, I mean, it just takes a lot of work. It takes day in and day out, really meticulous sort of attention to detail construction supervision. At Brivia, we are extremely fortunate to work with the construction team in-house that are really have a great attention to detail. We're really watching and monitoring the progress of a construction closely. So far so good. I mean, knocking on wood, but there's no shortcut in this. Have to do it day in and day out, watching it closely.
Interesting. So Irene, when you're working with a business that is developed this much and that's growing this fast, in the back of that business, you have to have a very good management team, a very good director. How is your team? Can you describe your team to us today?
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right. First of all, you cannot do anything by yourself, right? It's always about teamwork. It's always about building a team, having a good team, and keeping the team. So we're very fortunate. Our founder and our CEO and president, Mr. Kang Lee, is a very much visionary man. So he founded Brivia 20 years ago, 21 years now, because it's 2021. And today we have close to 70 team members. So we do A to Z, from acquisition all the way to property management to stabilized assets that we have developed. So it's very important that we have the team that's supporting us, and we are very fortunate to be surrounded by our team member. We have a very diversified team, have people that are very experienced in the industry, that have brought 20, 30 of experience joining us, and we also have the mid-level manager, the young graduates that are passionate about the industry, that have a lot of ideas, that are dynamic. So we're really much a fun-loving, hardworking and dynamic team. So very fortunate to be surrounded by the good people.
So by integrating, first of all, having that diversity helps you have different ideas, I'm guessing, coming in.
Absolutely.
And you're controlling the whole process of the build all the way to the management in-house, so you can detect problems more easily, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. And also because we are now going towards more of the percentage of our portfolio is more devoted to purpose-built rental, the expertise of the property management team actually feeds back to the conception and the development process, especially in the choice of construction materials, the finishing, the design and everything. So this is really a really healthy and good cycle in the development, because like I said, whatever experience and lessons that we can learn in managing our buildings, we can feed that back to our construction and design team. So that's a really, really good teamwork right there.
Really interesting. Today we had the occasion to fly over several of your projects. Could you give us the why behind those projects, and what's the direction that each project took, basically?
Absolutely. So today we had a really good flight that we looked at, mainly our Link project, Mansfield and Phillips Square. Well, I'll start with Link. Link is a purpose-built rental project. Like I have already mentioned, we're going heavier in our investment and development of the purpose-built rental. So Link is a strategically located property near Concordia University. So it's quite similar in design concept as our first purpose-built rental in downtown Stanbrook. But we'll call it a Stanbrook version 2.0, for example. It's close to the universities, close to the office buildings. So our target clientele are grad students, university students, young professional, and even the boomers who want to downsize. And the building is designed in a way that facilitates people to form that bond with each other, the residents. And there's common amenities that's really comfortable for people to utilize for their study, for their work. And also the whole building is also designed in a way that's very smart. It's smart not just for the residents, because nowadays, people want a convenience to be able to control everything with your phone. There's keyless access. You can enter the building with your phone. You can enter into your own unit with your phone. And your property manager is going to talk to you through your app, because if there's ever notices or whatnot, it will be a push notification from the app, so you can communicate with them over the phone. But also it's really smart for the building manager as well, because like I said, our building is built in a way that's efficient in energy utilization and also in the control of the building. So we're actually implementing a lot of prop tech into this building. For the manager, we can remote control the unit's temperature and certain setting of the building, and we can detect if there is a water leakage as well, because this has been a pretty hot topic over the years. So we have implemented a lot of the avant-garde design concept and construction concept, a lot of the prop tech features into the building. So I'm very confident that a building is going to be one of the best in the market. We have completed the envelope, pretty much the envelope already. So we're doing the interior finishing. We plan on starting the pre-leasing. Actually, the pre-leasing campaign has started. So we will welcome the first batch of residents starting from springtime next year. So look forward to maybe give you a tour by summer next year, and we'll see the building in action.
With pleasure. How does that building marry with your other two projects that we saw today? What are the differences, basically?
Right, that's an excellent question. So the difference is that Link, again, is a purpose-built rental, and Mansfield is a condo project. And Phillips Square is a three-phase project. The first phase being partially rental and partially condo. So maybe we'll start with Phillips Square. Sure. So Phillips Square, we launched the project 2 years ago, And the pre-sale has been going really strong despite the pandemic. Actually, during the whole period of the pandemic, we're still receiving a lot of interest. We have made excellent sales. And we have also seen a lot of end users because of the location. Although it's still in downtown core, but because it's, when we were flying over, you will notice that the street frontage of the land is quite small. So this means that you're surrounded by buildings and you have that nice urban oasis, sort of sanctuary feeling of the building. It's almost a gated community sort of concept. So all of the end users love that, and it's going to be, phase one is actually going to be the tallest residential tower in Montreal, 61-story high, above 200 meters. So it's really, really going to be a landmark building. So that building, the first 21-story is going to be rental, and 22 and above is going to be condo. So it's a really nice community that we are creating, meeting the demands of different sector of the market. And again, it's just like any our downtown project is going to be featured with great amenities, a terrace on the 55th floor. So it's really giving the residents a lot of conveniences and also taking advantage of our downtown core location and height of the building so they can enjoy the view of the city very much. Now, Mansfield is a very interesting project as well because we all know that during the pandemic, there's not a lot of condo launches in downtown.
Right.
So we launched the project earlier this year. We did a virtual launch, which is one of the first in the city. And now as the activities started to come back to normal, we're having a hybrid mode of still offering that kind of convenience of virtual visit to the project, but our sales office is open. And I was just mentioning quickly as well that we have done a merger of the sales office of Phillips Square and Mansfield. So it's one location for two projects. So we have a completely revamped the sales office, and it will be my pleasure to take you for a tour of the sales center as well. We have started the demolition process of the Mansfield site. So we expect the residents are going to start moving in around mid-year in 2024. So these projects are all going very well, and we're excited to add more to the skyline of Montreal, our beloved city.
Wow, well, thank you very much for the interview, Irene. It was a pleasure having a team leader as you coming in,
well, thank you.
Explaining the project, spending the time. Thank you very much, and we'll stay tuned to your future projects.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.